and it's running, and we're in it, and he's not interfering. Okay? An indirect God, a God that's very, very far removed.
Welcome everyone to Deist Reality. Since my children were very small, I told them to look at people in the eyes and to think of everyone and everything as a potential personal revelation from God. My daughter was in her 10th grade social studies class, and the teacher said this about deism and what a true or pure deist believes.
The upright or to miss, is God listening to that? Now, he's going to reach in and go, all right, or no. He's created the universe a long time, and now it's running, and he's very far removed. He can see it, watch it, but he's not interfering in it. Okay? He's like the great watchmaker again. He's put everything in motion, and there it goes. But he's not interfering in it, not making it work. He's not winding the watch or anything. Okay? And Voltaire was one of these. Jefferson, probably Benjamin Franklin.
It was no surprise for my daughter when the teacher told her the belief she's raised in believes in a God that doesn't play a conscious, active role in her life in any way. The lecture given was more about atheism, when we realize all rational people believe life comes from something. The teacher has good reason to be ignorant on the matter, because his thoughts are how deism has been traditionally defined by non-self-professing deists. We get today's definition of deism from Noah Webster first and foremost. History shows Noah Webster had a deep hatred for the deists of his day. His zealot demeanor for his own faith clouded his reasoning skills with the religion of deism and those who professed this simplistic truth. Read his definition of deism to get a sense of his disdain for people who embrace deism and who helped shape American history and so world history. The major problem with Noah Webster's definition, besides how misleading it is not one self-professing deist of antiquity believed in a God that went away. Not one. Webster's definition eliminates all great deists from the self-professing deists' religious heritage. The misdefining of the word deism, and so the misguided religious understanding of those who profess to be deist, has many well-meaning, well-educated authors speculating on key founding fathers' religious convictions. Heated debates on key deists still go on to this day with no real answers. Only individual speculations, as if there were no real religious titles these founding fathers belong under, yet we all know they believed in one God. Most who look into these people's faith spin their books so that they fit under their particular concept of God. People still don't realize there's a rational path of understanding this power, force, energy, the ultimate source to all that is. Whatever it is the billions of us rightly honor with the sacred title of God, people don't realize there's a religious path of understanding that's in complete harmony with science, reason, and so absolute truth. A path that could be taught in schools without insulting anyone and would be in complete alignment with key founding fathers and mothers. In fact, it can be said deism is being taught in schools on many levels without people even knowing it. People don't realize there's a vocabulary or a way to talk about God that deep down we all know to be true and could unite under if we knew the proper linguistics to communicate our convictions. A path that needs no title except if one wishes to communicate it to another person or group together, bind together, as the word religion implies, in hopes of eliminating all dangerous faiths that plague our world and breed spiritual as well as social segregation. Deism is the path of understanding that, when rightly understood, in my own opinion, could help save our race and the life that surrounds us. This is how important the subject is to me. However, no spiritually minded person who feels God plays a conscious active role in their life is ever going to give deism a second thought if deism is all about a creator that doesn't actively get involved with the creation. Again, this is true atheism. Lack in belief in theism, when we realize all conscious people know life does indeed come from something. Thomas Paine was a pure deist who most certainly believed in divine providence, theism, or an active God. Thomas Paine is another great example of how misleading Noah Webster's definition of deism is. All of his political as well as theological writings clearly prove his deep spiritual conviction in an active God. You can't read his work and not know this, yet for some reason, most, if not all, seemingly well-meaning historians miss this obvious truth. That's if they even mention Thomas Paine at all. Many, if not all, self-professed deists of today recognize they're deists because of this key luminary who wrote so much on the subject. His pamphlet Common Sense, I'm sure most of us know, or should know, was a huge motivator for independence from Britain and monarchical systems of government. Some say he's the true author of the Declaration of Independence. Studying the original draft brings this thought home for many reasons, especially the slavery clause found in the original that was voted out by original sinning believing so-called Christians who were 93% of the congressional majority. Jefferson, a slave owner his whole life, never freeing any of his slaves till death, would be a huge hypocrite if he wrote this original draft. Jefferson, one of Paine's dearest friends, to the very end, I'd like to think, was no hypocrite. What Mr. Paine did for independence in politics, he wanted to do for systems of religion as well, totally freeing mankind politically and religiously from dangerous faiths that warp our worldviews on so many levels. He said in his most important pamphlet, The Age of Reason, "Soon after I had published the pamphlet Common Sense in America, I saw the exceeding probability that a revolution in the system of government would be followed by a revolution in the system of religion. I feel because of this misguided, ignorant definition of Noah Webster's that most of us blindly accept this much-needed revolution in the system of religion Paine was talking about has not taken place." A turning around in the system of religion, I think we'd all agree, needs to take place. And if it is, it's not taking place fast enough. With all the fanatical religions that forcibly impose their faith on the world like some kind of a truth, we need well-educated people on religious matters who can rationally lead by example with a coherent and natural doctrine the religion and philosophy of deism provides. Deism has never been about faith. It's about a self-evident path of understanding that, again, most rational people believe deep down to be true without even knowing the word. Deism, a word that means God, the Latin word for God. How convenient and rational is it to have a word that means God, yet implies the study of God at the same time, totally eliminating human opinion and allowing people to study the first cause on their own terms with no middleman. Deism is a word that could unite agnostics, atheists, and theists if they could only put down their individual faiths on who or what started the all. Simply put, the Word of God is the creation we behold. As I've said multiple times, it's not about studying one book, but all books. It's about studying the collective whole that proves God is to gain any real knowledge or insight on the matter. This is what the word deism implies. A divine study that involves both science and metaphysics, as we're certainly dealing with a power that does indeed defy what we know to be true with the physical world, at least at this time in our evolutionary growth of understanding. Science is to the first cause as deism is to God. This phrase is saying the same thing. Deism is to God adds the metaphysical, spiritual factor that's so important to the God concept. Our assumptions on the matter at this time can't be validated because we don't know what started the collective whole at this time. Yet we all know something did because life is here to prove it. So whatever truths we think we know on matters of God, we're forced to call a faith because we can't prove them. Could you imagine a world where mankind treats life itself, metaphorically speaking, like a sacred text from God? I can, and most self-professing pure deists of today can as well. Deism can instill this kind of mindset. If one wishes not to treat life like a sacred text from God, it seems to me no one would oppose others doing so, as deism in the religious sense benefits everyone and everything. Look up Thomas Paine's definition of what a deist believes and what deism actually means. You'll see with his definition that all are deists who believe in a deity, even the atheist, if they can only think of the word God as an honorary title for whatever it is that the all comes from, as they too realize once again life does indeed come from something. How strange for Noah Webster to say deists acknowledge the existence of one God but deny revelation, or independent and exclusive of any revelation from God. What Webster means to say is the pure deist denies his interpretation of the Bible as he feels it was revealed to him, acting like his interpretation of ancient linguistics is some kind of a truth, even though it goes against the absolute laws of nature that we as conscious beings depend on to discern for ourselves what is true and not true, or what is right and what is wrong. Again, what is a revelation from God but a truth or a fact that comes to us in a surprising way? Whether one believes these truths come by divine providence, luck, or chance, it's still a revelation. Personal revelations, all self-professing deists all people believe in, or should believe in. Whether one believes these truths come by divine providence, luck, or chance, it's still a revelation. Personal revelations all self-professing deists, all people believe in, or should believe in. Whether these revelations come by luck or some form of providence is a personal faith to each individual deist or person. I ask, why do we take the definition of what deism means, or what deists believe, from non-self-professing deists like Noah Webster, the Catholic Church, or from some so-called secular active atheist type? These people, all religious zealots for their own faith, and have every reason to deter mankind from the reality of deism. Like taking Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Christopher Hitchens, all well-known active atheist definition of what Christianity means. Or taking Rick Warren, Fred Phelps, Pat Robinson, all original sinning Christians, taking their definition of what atheism means. Why take Noah Webster's definition when Thomas Paine makes it very clear what deism is and what a true or pure deist believes through his many writings on the subject? With Thomas Paine's definition of a deist, again, we see that all are deists who believe in a deity or a God. However, it's the true or pure deist who follows the direct path of understanding God that deism provides, rather than human opinion or books written and voted on by mere men. Paine's book, The Age of Reason, was trying to get people to put down our individual faiths. Intelligence behind the design, providence, theism, no intelligence behind the design, atheism, luck and chance, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and all the different sects that stem from each. Mr. Paine wanted mankind to unite under a belief in nature's God, as nature's God is what proves God is in the first place. It's nature's God that all the Abrahamic faiths revert to when debating the non-believers of their faith. It's the pure deist's stance on matters of God that in the end ultimately make these nonsensical Abrahamic faiths seem like they have some real validity or substance before they start wandering into a labyrinth of uncertainty and fable, exposing the rest of us to every kind of imposition with their pretended revelations from their version of a book written and voted on by mere men. Again, this definition Webster created and many people embrace eliminates all key self-professing deists of antiquity from actually being deists as defined. Thomas Paine is almost forgotten in our history because of his religious convictions, views that most of us today are able to embrace without persecution if we only had the right idea of what deism actually means. Views that deep down, once again, we all know to be true without even knowing the word, as the path of understanding is self-evident to anyone who uses reason as their guide. Public schools in America unknowingly, I'd hope, deprive children the knowledge of a direct and proper path of understanding God that can be found in life, nature, and the universe, as the word deism implies. In fact, when teachers give their definition, the God that went away, as my daughter's teacher did, like some kind of a truth, they unintentionally deter spiritual-minded students from investigating into this sacred path of understanding the infinite. They deter students from the reality of deism. They deter students from looking into the very person whose precepts, I'd hope, most parents want our children to conserve in the first place. Thomas Paine, the greatest of our founding fathers, in my opinion, if true freedom is our desire, is who we want our children to emulate and mirror. The groundbreaking paper proclamation that makes this country great, the Declaration of Independence, talks of nature's God as well. It talks about where we get our rights. This is no accident. Look at all the assigned drafters of this freedom-enabling document and what their religious convictions were. They were pure or true deists, as defined by Thomas Paine, a self-professing deist whose definition of the word should be the norm because of his most important contribution to our country, mankind in general, and again, because he's written so much on this subject. These founding fathers followed the direct path of understanding the infinite, where mankind can't possibly be deceived. They knew all about the reality of deism. How come our children don't? They don't, I'm sorry to say, because educators are naive on the subject, then spread this ignorance generation after generation. Once more, my fellow deists, true, pure, or otherwise, could you imagine if students or all people treated life itself like a sacred text from God? This is deism. Instead of subduing and taking dominion over the creation, as all other religions teach, we teach our children that we form a symbiotic circle with the life that surrounds us. That's all I have to say for now. God bless. Over and out.
We will heal this planet, one pure deist at a time.